Hey, what's up everyone? This is Eben here, and today I want to share with you 3 of my tips for boosting your creativity and coming up with new ideas. Now, this is something that I know a lot of artists struggle with, whether you are just starting out or whether you are a professional or someone who has been creating art for their whole lives. You will inevitably hit these spots where you just can't come up with new ideas or really give life to your paintings or drawings or whatever it is. So today I'm going to walk you through 3 strategies I use for boosting creativity in my own life. Real quick before we dive into that, I just want to mention that there are still a few spots left in the group mentorship option through my website. I'm going to be gathering a small group of students in February to go through a 4-week course to improve your artwork and to develop a strategy for your own practice. So if you want to check that out and really take your skills to the next level and meet some fellow artists and learn from myself, you can check that out in the link below. There are only a handful of spots left there, but I'm really excited to get going. That's in just about a week now, so check that out. And of course, there are also links to the brush pack I use in this video and some other resources down there as well. And if you are just joining us for the first time, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification, like the video, so that you don't miss new content I release every Wednesday or live streams that I do on Sundays. Alright, let's move on to tip number 1, which is simplify your surroundings. And this is something I've been working on quite a bit recently, and honestly, you can never stop doing this once you get started. It's just sort of this snowball effect, but really it makes a huge difference, and this is something I do every day before I begin my work, and often also at night before I go to bed. I make sure that my entire creative space is as clear and clean and simple as possible. And that doesn't just mean the desk that I work at. It doesn't just mean the digital drawing or painting space that I'm using or wherever I happen to be physically present at the time. It does also mean everything I'm seeing, that I'm surrounded by in that moment. I want to surround myself with simple surfaces, with non-complex objects, and occasionally with some things that are just more aesthetically inspiring, just, like plants and that kind of thing. Not too much. I tend to overdo it with the plants a little bit sometimes because I just love plants and I love growing them, but even then I sometimes have to force myself to reel it back and really keep things simple around me, because when your space is free of clutter, your mind is also free of clutter. You reflect your space, and that can really encourage your mind to create new things. Creativity kind of comes from nothing. And if you have too many things bouncing around, too many things to focus on, it will not allow you to flourish creatively. And that also means using your creative space specifically for creation. And this is a really hard thing to do, especially if you're a digital artist like myself and you don't just have a dedicated painting space. For me, my digital painting space I also share with a lot of other activities that I do on my computer and that kind of thing. I do try to keep my digital space clean and simplified as well, which sounds kind of odd, but I mean, everything down to your desktop, how many icons you have down there, how many windows you have up when you start your creative process. Do you have distractions around you? Is your phone next to you? Do you have something that's likely to draw your attention away from your task, notifications, all that kind of stuff? By the way, I do keep my phone on do not disturb mode all of the time. It will ring for calls, but that's about it. Any notification, that kind of thing. I will try to keep it in a different room at all times. I actually have a designated place where it will charge that is not near my creative space or my bed or anything like that, and I keep it there throughout the day, and I make deliberate time to set aside to check that out and check on things. But unless I'm using it for social media posting and that kind of thing, I just keep it away from my work and my creative space. So number 2 is to gather inspiration for yourself, and the key here is to learn not just from your inspiration sources like films and games and that kind of thing, but from other artists who are doing things that you want to be doing. And the key here is to be able to do that non-judgmentally. And I know I'm speaking from personal experience here, but I've shared this viewpoint with a lot of other artists I've talked to, where it can be difficult to look at all this great, fantastic work from master artists that you see on Instagram or on ArtStation or just in concept galleries for films and video games, all this great, fantastic, professional level stuff. It can be sometimes difficult to look at that and gather inspiration. It can be difficult to look at that and not feel a little bad about yourself because you're comparing yourself to what they're producing. And really, that's a mindset you need to work yourself out of. You need to be able to absorb what they're doing, to learn from it, to identify specifically what they are doing, why you enjoy it so much, why you're drawn to it, what is so pleasing about it, to analyze it, to try to replicate it too. Do master studies. I include a master study in my weekly practice schedule every Wednesday. And I know going into that I'm guaranteed to produce something that is worse than what I'm seeing. It may be a little bit more in my style, and that's a great thing, but I know going into that I'm not going to produce something better, but I may learn something from it. And to be completely honest with you guys, this is something I avoided for a very long time, for years after I graduated college, and while I was sort of considering pursuing a career in art, I actually did not even look at reference photos from great master artists, people that were doing this incredible work that I knew was out there. I couldn't look at it because I couldn't refrain from comparing myself to it and from feeling down about myself and my skills and my abilities. I would look at this great art and I would just sort of cringe inside, and I had to just push it away. I didn't save anything. I didn't, gather any references. I just shut it all out. I deliberately avoided it. And that was probably the worst thing I could have done at the time, because the reality is these people are out there. They're better than you. There's always someone that is more skilled than you, that is doing fantastic work that you cannot currently create. And the fact is, if you want to get to that level, you have to get familiar with that feeling. You have to familiarize yourself with their work, with their strategies, and you have to deliberately expose yourself to this stuff all the time, to absorb it, to learn from it, and not compare yourself to these people that have years of experience on you, or who have been practicing very specific skills for a long time. Observe their work, gather it for yourself, try to copy it, try to make what they've made, and see where your differences are. Try to identify those specific skills you need, and of course, enjoy their work. Enjoy what they've created. They've created this beautiful stuff. Look at it, enjoy it, and have some fun with it. Let it inspire you to maybe make a variation or to create your own version of their idea. These are fellow creative people that you can learn from, and they have a lot to offer you in terms of ideas and inspiration. Number 3, and this one is really important for me, is to focus on the process rather than the results. And I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive, because you want to think if you want to get better, you should focus on getting better results. You should focus on creating a really great painting. That should be your goal, right? Well, unfortunately, it doesn't always work like that. And I think for a lot of people, myself included, when we start with that as our goal in mind, we're really shooting ourselves in the foot. We're creating an obstacle for ourselves. We're creating expectations about how we want things to go. And the fact remains, no matter what level of skill you are at, no matter what type of artist you are, you're going to create things that aren't up to your personal standards. And if you get discouraged halfway through, and you create something that you don't particularly like, or that doesn't meet the standards that you are looking for yourself, and you allow that feeling to discourage you, you're going to create less, you're going to paint less, you're not going to be motivated to improve your skills and put the time in that you need to improve your craft. And that's the key here, is when you focus on the process, when you focus on the enjoyment of the process and just the creative element of it, and not so much what happens, you're going to end up putting more time into your work because you enjoy it more, and you'll be motivated to spend more time on it. It won't feel like a drag. You won't be avoiding it all day, even though you know, quote unquote, that you should be practicing. You just won't have that hanging over on you because you'll enjoy it. You'll know that there's a certain time of the day when you can sit down and just dive into a painting and really enjoy it. And that's something you have to teach yourself. Or reteach yourself in a way. It's something children really understand intuitively, and for a lot of us, that's where our artistic skills began. Was as children we discovered the possibilities of creativity, the boundless realms that were available to us through a blank page or a blank canvas or whatever it is we were working on. And that was an exciting thing for us, and it can be for you. It's just as we grow up, a lot of us sort of lose sight of that skill set, and it becomes a skill set. It's not so intuitive anymore because we're used to analyzing and criticizing things, and that's very valuable as well. We don't want to completely let go of that, but we have to be deliberate about practicing the other end of the spectrum. We have to be deliberate about practicing our process, about staying present in the process as we're moving through it, of enjoying every stroke that we're putting down on the page. And if you're not enjoying it, there are a lot of strategies you can use. I actually covered this in another video about auto drawing. This is one very specific practice that you can use to become more involved in your process and less about the result. There are a lot of different practices if you aren't sure where to start, or if you're just having trouble getting into it, that you can use. But personally for me, that's one of them, auto drawing and auto painting, and just sort of putting marks down on the canvas or putting sketch lines down, and without really any idea or preconception or expectation about how it's going to turn out. And another one is just finding a nice comfortable space to just sit down, maybe put on one of your favorite audiobooks or podcasts, or listen to some music and just sort of zone out on it, and just make something you want to make, or make something that's inspired by whatever it is you're listening to. It just sort of carve some time out to really sit down and enjoy the process. For me, that's, late in the evening is just a great time for that. I'll make up some tea, I'll make a ritual out of it, and know that I'll just sit down in a comfortable chair. I usually use an iPad on Procreate for this, just because that's sort of a bit easier for me to get into that mindset with. But you can just sit down there and just start sketching or practicing or doing a study or whatever it is, and just sort of take a bit of the burden off of having to practice, and just set aside some time for yourself to really just get into it, to enjoy it, non-judgmentally, without any expectations about what you're going to create. And of course, if you create something you don't like, you can always just delete it, or don't, maybe learn from it. It's, you just don't need to be so attached to the results of these things, because you are going to create some horrible artwork. I can guarantee it. And maybe someone else doesn't believe it's horrible. Maybe that's just you and your standards, and that matters too. But the fact is, this is how we learn. We don't create great stuff every time, and it may even just be 10% of the time that you create something you like, but you will never be able to discover that unless you put the time in. So that's it for me today. Those are 3 ways that you can boost your creativity, and I hope you found that somewhat helpful. And of course, there are hundreds of other ways, and I'd be happy to make another video about this. If you have any requests for future video content, please leave that in the comments below. And once again, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you want to check out the mentorship, please go check out the link below to my website. You can find out more information, or you can just contact me directly, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. So until next time, guys, I hope you all stay safe and be well and take care of yourselves and make some awesome art, and I will catch you next week.